Welcome back to Studioloo. So I'm just going to talk for a little bit while I cut out these little frog trading cards. So I'm sorry, it's been like a full week pretty much since I made a video, but it has been a really intense week of just work and more work. And also I had to study and work on an exam for a course that I'm taking at my job, and it was like a really intense, a very intense thing. So you know how these things are. You don't really have a choice sometimes at work but to participate in certain things. So that is what I've been working on, and it's taken a lot of time because basically right before I had my appendectomy, I had attended the original training course for this thing we're learning. And then you have 30 days to study their workbook and then write the exam. So for me, I lost 2 weeks of that time because I was recovering, and I honestly, my head was not in it to do much of anything that required much concentration. Probably, for a good 2 weeks there because of the drugs that I had to take to not be in pain. And so, yeah, that was not an option. So they did allow me to extend it by 2 weeks, but the funny thing is that a lot of people that didn't have any kind of life event after the training also extended it by 2 weeks, just because it has got to be, it's like James Joyce wrote this training. Like seriously, it is the wordiest, most redundant, like material that I have ever covered. And I mean, I've done a lot of adult education, and yeah, this was pretty intensive. The other thing about it is, so since the pandemic started and people are doing work and training from home and schooling from home, they've made adjustments, this company, to the test, the exam questions, because I think they anticipate that people will treat it like an open book and essentially cheat or something. But like, I've never encountered such a ridiculous set of test questions in my life. Like, imagine a multiple choice that has 6 variables and all of them are relatively similar, and basically 2 of them are probably correct, but only one of them uses exactly the same lingo that this company uses. Like, and the thing of it is, the industry might call something, like, let's say we're talking about a journey. Okay, so in the industry, this thing is always referred to as a journey, but this company specifically, they don't call it a journey, they call it an adventure. And so if you don't get the word adventure, like you don't remember that, oh yeah, they specifically call it an adventure, and you choose journey, although you're choosing the same thing, wrong. And so it was probably one of the most intense, like, tests I've ever taken. And I already really dislike multiple choice because I am a naturally analytical person, and some of my education and the I would say education related social groups that I have run with, I've learned a little bit about how my brain works, and how, for me, multiple choice is actually harder than writing some kind of like a large exposition on a topic that I've learned about. So for me, it was pretty intensive, and I spent the last week just reading and reading and reading. It was insane amounts of reading. And then yesterday, I finished up the reading. Then they have a practice test you can take, which I took, and you need a 73 to pass. And I literally got a 73. And I was like, ugh, I'm like, what do I do now, right? Because I'm too far on the edge. I don't want to take the test and fail it, because then I have to pay to rewrite it, which I don't want to do because I'm already kind of like grouchy about this whole methodology to begin with. So then I was like, okay, you know what? what, screw it, I'm tired, and I didn't have a whole lot of patience for this process anymore. And I thought, if I fail, you know what, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I know that I know enough about the actual process to do this job at my job, like to do the work they need me to do. Honestly, I've been doing it. I just don't call it what they call it. And I'm, you know, I'm a senior in my job. I know what I'm doing. So I'm not too concerned at this point. So I just boldly went into it, you know, pretty much fueled by coffee and frustration. And then I completed it and I got a 91. And I was just like, okay, how did that happen? Like, so I honestly chalk it up to, you know, pretty much that the material is, you know, in chapters, and I think I know a little bit more about the questions that I was presented in the final test, which is randomized, than in the practice test. So maybe there's certain, well, there's definitely like certain chapters I could polish my knowledge of, but to be honest, I won't, because they have nothing at all to do with my job. It's kind of like if you were, you know, training to become a teacher, and you were in, you know, teaching like school, and you wanted to be a teacher of like history at the high school level. Imagine having to learn everything from like early childhood education to university professor to principal to, you know, like all these different things that really have little to nothing to do with your job. So that's how I chalk up that experience for me. Kind of like underwhelmed by the whole thing, but that was my week, and I'm super sorry that I was not around to do a whole lot. And last weekend I didn't do the weekly wrap up because I just really wanted to focus on, my hands are shaking, I've had too much coffee and not enough food, but food is coming. My husband is making breakfast. So I wanted to focus on the launch of the Imagination blanket, which I hope some of you have taken a look. And even if you're not a stitcher, just, you know, think about it. Think about maybe like just start something new, learn something new, hang out with me and do this, because it's going to be fun. And I'll show you an update on where I am today with this thing. I absolutely love it to bits. I'm really enjoying working on it. It is a great like bedtime project, like that, you know, little bit of time before you go to sleep at night. Like, it's really nice to just throw a few stitches in something. And you know, usually I will read, but lately my brain, especially this week, has just been unable to focus on any more reading, because that's what I've been doing all week. So it was nice to just take a break from trying to do any reading at night. So yeah, that's why I didn't do a wrap up last weekend, because I just really wanted to be focused on launching that. And so let me I'm just going to finish these little guys here. The other thing that I've been doing in the background, so as you'll recall, I started, I believe I have 12 summer flea market journals, and I really want to get some time to work on them, because I would like to get them finished this week if I could. We'll see, because there's a lot of ephemera to make. I have the journals all constructed now. I've got all of the covers completed with the pockets, and I've got all of the signatures chosen, cut down, organized into the signature. And now I'm just completing a bunch of ephemera that's going to go into them. I've completed one of the journals, which I'll show you kind of a quick look at it today before I do the walkthrough. I was sort of thinking about, like, do I want to do like one kind of launch of these into the Etsy shop, or do I want to you know, just post them one at a time? And I'm sort of thinking like I might just post them one at a time, because that will spread them out more and give people an opportunity to get them if they're interested, and it will be random. And if you're following me on Etsy, you'll be the first one to know that they're there, because you'll get that notification in your updates panel on Etsy. So I'm thinking I might just do that, because also sometimes it's overwhelming when you put a lot of stuff in the shop. So I'm also working on, well, I'm planning to work on spinning some yarn. So if you follow me for my yarns, I am getting together a bunch of fibers to get spinning some yarns. That will be happening this week, I hope. I'm hoping that work is not so intense, because last week my option was kind of like intense work all day, and then obviously, you know, when you haven't seen the family much because you've been working so much, you just want to spend time with them. So that's what I was doing, rather than doing a ton of work on journals or much else. Books, or not books, but yarns rather. Here we go. Okay, so I'll stop playing now and I will show you what's been happening. So did you know we are officially halfway through 2021? Can you believe it? Like, how are we already halfway through? So if you've been following me on Instagram, or here really, you'll know that I'm participating in a challenge that is organized by Anne Brooke. She is a textile artist. She has a YouTube channel, which I'll link to. I've linked to it many times before in my weekly wrap-up. So she's Anne Brooke, textile artist on YouTube. And so she has done in the past many really cool challenges, like under the kind of theme of sew for the soul. So it's about hand stitching, mainly sewing, you know, just for the comfort of like your hobby, for you, not for anything in particular. And so she did that. She did first it was like a giant, like a, well, not a giant, but a long roll of fabric that wrapped onto like a vintage bobbin, and it was like a big long snippet roll of like hand sewn things, different stitches and techniques. And then she did like a little, like almost like a needle book, a fabric book, and she did the same kind of thing with lots of themes and techniques. So in 2021, she came up with this because it would be a project that would last all year long. And this is the 52 tags challenge. So because we're halfway through, I thought I would both film my tags as well as do some photos for Instagram. So you can check out my Instagram, Studioloo on Instagram. Later today, I'm going to be doing some photos of all the tags. So this is week number 1, and I've tried to keep them in order. I absolutely apologize if I don't. Also, I didn't write anything on the back of these. They're all blank on the back. I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with them initially. I thought I might just end up using them in journals. But now I feel like I've gotten sort of emotionally attached to them because they're a family. Like they go together. So I'm probably going to hang on to them, then write what the theme was on the back, and maybe some feelings on how I, like what I did with this and whatnot. But I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet. So anyways, let's just go through these really quick. There are now 26 of them. So the first week was working just in white. So I actually did some weaving. I had stitched down this more sort of yellowy ivory toned yarn, and then I wove through it with boucle, and that's hand spun boucle, by the way. And then up here, this is a shell from the Irish Sea, and this is a very fine paper leaf die cut, and then there's lace on the back. So I was happy just working with white in this one. Then the next one was about using a heart. So for this one, I used this really fun, we're supposed to also, I think, use like contrasting colors. So for me, that's red and green. And so this back fabric is actually from a vintage dress that I used to wear, but it got quite worn out over the years, and so I love the fabric, so I'm pretty happy I've been able to keep it in some way. So then my heart was actually this piece of leather that I cut this heart out of, and then I stitched these little V-shaped kind of hearts out of my own hand spun yarn. So that's the love, or the heart one. And then I believe week 3 was this kind of a fun scrappy tag. So what we did was we took a bunch of strips of different fabrics, and you sort of lay them down. They're doubly wide as what you see there, and you stitch down the center. And in the background is just book page that I inked up, and I used all these fun colors, and you just get this really fun scrappy kind of tag. Hopefully you can see that. And there's lots of, like, you know, threads like that are left over, and it's just, I love it so much. And this one, I think week 4, was about kisses or X's, so kind of like cross stitch. So I used book pages to make all of these tags. You can often see kind of hints of them in the background. And then I laid down some nice pink fabric and some blues. I think we're supposed to kind of work with like colors that we don't normally work with. And for me, this is kind of like, I don't know. I used to hate pastel and now I love pastel. So I used pastel here, and I did some French knots in the center of this flower and just kind of embroidered on top of this. One thing I really love about floral fabrics is how you can embroider on top of them and kind of accent the fabric. So that's what I did here. And of course, all of the X's. And then this tag was about using buttons. So this one feels very mixed media and different to me. And I used some patina products, like for creating a copper patina in the background. I laid down this nice fabric. This is actually hand dyed by me from a workshop I took a few years ago at I forget the name of the school that I took it at, but that's fine. It's in Toronto. So anyhow, so yeah, it was using buttons. So I chose a lot of brown and blue buttons, vintage ones, and stitched them all down. And then actually had a button card that still had all the buttons wired to it, and added that at the top with a wood button. And I'm really happy with how this tag turned out. I think it's very, like, it's just nice colors. Then this one was fly stitch. So I did like a dandelion kind of feeling tag where I used these are silk flower leaves, and I just kind of fly stitched a border here around in a nice mustard yellow. This is like gray suede fabric in the background, and then just kind of did my little fly stitch dandelion flyaways with some French knots in the middle. Then this one, pistol stitch and French knots. So I believe it's pistol stitch, is basically just a French knot but with a long tail. So I used a vintage fabric from actually this really cute, it was Skorts. It was a jumper from like the 60s, and this fabric is just amazing. And so I did French knots to kind of go in the middle of all the flowers, and then used some pistol stitches to just sort of stitch more flower details all around the tag. This one was working with yo-yos or Suffolk puffs. So I must admit, not my favorite thing to make in the world. I found them quite fiddly. I don't think I will make a whole lot of yo-yos. I'm also not really a huge fan of like how they look in usage, like in their kind of vintage usage. Like for me, I always refer to things that like I don't like from history. Like it's just not your aesthetic, right? If you like them, then power to you. You know, we all like different things. I always refer to things like that as the brown and yellow couch. Like, you know how like in the 70s, your parents, your grandparents, they all had like a really uncomfortable, ugly, upholstered floral usually, or like weird pattern that looked kind of like linoleum floor. It was always like this really hot, uncomfortable couch. Like I don't know what it is, but I was plagued with those as a child. Like my parents' friends or my grandparents or an aunt and uncle that I visited always had like some kind of a upholstered horrible brown and yellow or orange and brown couch. So for me, these are the orange and brown couch, or the orange brown and yellow couch. So I even, if you'll notice, used a bit of the colors there to kind of remind myself about that. So again, it's book page, and I used some of this nice sparkly fabric. I got these scraps from a thrift store, a bunch of fabrics from dance costumes, and then this is some hand-dyed ochre fabric that I did a bunch of little French knots on, and then I added French knots and little crosses and some long stitches to just kind of fancy up the Suffolk puff, because actually I just don't like a Suffolk puff, who knew? So that is that tag. Then this tag, this one was, I'm trying to remember, I can't even remember. Oh, layers maybe? I think it was about layering things, layering fabrics and other things. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So it has my own indigo dyed fabric in the back. I really love the whole way that these colors came together. This is little bits of Japanese fabric that is actually from the masks that I made for my husband. So we went to a fabric store and he chose a fabric that he wanted me to make masks out of. And so I'm actually pretty excited because he's really kind of got the sewing bug. I actually bought him a sewing machine for Father's Day. He wants to make himself like some really beautiful, like you know, button-up shirts and stuff, and he wants to sew for the kids, and so that will be nice. That will be something to have in common, like, you know, creatively, like it's kind of nice. So anyways, back to this and stop indulging myself about my husband. So more of that fabric from that vintage dress, and this fun Japanese fabric, some birch, this is birch bark, and some of that dance costume fabric, and then these are lengths from these beautiful crocheted snowflakes that I found in a thrift store years ago. They were starched, they were just incredible. And then I just added some stitches on top. So there's a lot of kind of depth and layering to this piece. Then I've completely lost track of the weeks that we're on, but that's okay. I forget what the theme was of this one. I'm terrible. Now I'm trying to remember. Is this the one that was Suffolk Puffs, maybe? It might be. It's okay. You know what? We're just looking at tags. We're not reinventing the wheel here. But anyways, so this one I did a lot of different things with. So again, more Suffolk Puffs. I added this embroidered flower on top and some little iridescent leaves that I stitched on, and some fabric at the top here, or sorry, some like is it lace? Is it trim? It's trim. And then these finely, see these little finely stitched thistle looking kind of things? Aren't they amazing? These are actually from Qatar. My friend purchased them for me years ago, and I've been hoarding them from this amazing store called the Taliban store, which is actually in, you know, North America. We know that word for other reasons, but it actually means student, and so it's like a supply store for textiles. So anyhow, these are some French knots and some lace, and down here I did some rub on, and then the backing is all just this nice floral fabric. So that's that one. This one was about rings, using rings in your work. So what we did was we got these are metal rings inside of these stitches, and then I forget the name of this button, but this is like basically like I took it to another level in that I made these buttons, and I forget the name of them, but basically they are a button that it's almost like a slip knot that you put all the way around these rings. Then you can stitch into them and create your own little motifs inside, and I completely forget the name of the button. My apologies. If you just Google search like fabric, you know, or stitched buttons, you'll find them. They're there. And then so I made those. This one's like some tulips, and then this one's kind of just like free form. It almost looks a little bit like a dream catcher, but that's not what I was going for. Or like a little web of stitches. Then I liked the pink background. I added this adorable vintage fabric with these little roses on it, and then I like these kind of compositions that are spread out a little bit evenly. Added some lace to, like, you know, like your eye can kind of follow in this maze. Like that's what I like to do with some of these tags. So I added some French knots up top, some sort of random stitching around different colors that looked good, and then these little shashi mirrors and some little embroidered flowers and a wooden wheel. So yeah, that is the rings tag. Okay, and this one was about herringbone stitch, or blanket stitch. So what I did with this one is, so I backed the whole thing in this amazing blue and gold embroidery fabric. And then we did a blanket stitch border, which I beaded. I added all these little beads all the way around. And then I did some more of the kind of herringbone stitching on the front, added this little Indian sari applique, and then this little flower here just to add some kind of interest to the tag. My major focus and most of my effort with this tag truly was the border. It was a little time consuming to add all the beading. And then this one, you know what? This one is actually the layering tag, so I don't know what the other one was. But you can check out Anne Brooks' channel for the actual themes. And I will probably do like a later update on this where I will have all the information written on the back so I can give you a more concise kind of story of all these tags. But today it's just about sharing because we're halfway there, and maybe I'm halfway there in terms of documenting my project. So the layers here are all different fabrics, and they are all stitched down in like squares and whatnot. And then I've added some flowers just to kind of add to the overall feel. This one actually might be layers of gold. That's what it was, layers of gold. So there's a lot of golds in here, and so I've backed the whole thing in gold. There's gold organza. Yeah, so that was layers of gold. Then this one was about stitching a mini landscape. So I was basically feeling like just stitching like a little, kind of a little house, like a little cottage, because I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of times during this year where I have just wanted to run screaming into the woods and be by myself, to be completely honest, and just get as far from humanity as I can. And have quiet and squirrels and birds and water and woods. And so that's what I was thinking about when I made this tag. So I backed it with this really fun, this is from a vintage polyester dress that I loved the look of, but not the feel of, because, you know, I don't know how, for all of the women out there who watch this channel, if you wore those polyester dresses in like the 70s or the 60s in the blazing heat, you know what? Praise you, because I don't know how you do it. I would die. I have so many vintage dresses that I can wear for approximately 5 minutes until I feel like my entire body is on fire. But I still hang them in my closet and love them dearly, but I really just don't know. I'm like, how do I 3D print this into a cotton fabric or something? Because yeah, I can't. So anyways, I stitched these trees in the back, and I just gave them kind of different kinds of leaves with different stitches. I did this moon up top with these like gold thread strings, and I felt like that was just a fun kind of thing to add in the top. And then a little cottage here, and then I used some vintage tea-dyed crochet lace and some fabric at the bottom to just kind of, it's like a little stonescape. It reminds me of a place that I go camping that has a lot of big flat stones, and some little flowers here and there. So that's that one. Then this one's fun. This is about a memory and a gift. So years ago, my husband and I, before we had children, it's probably been about 8 years ago, I think, we did a road trip from Toronto to Newfoundland, making stops in Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and then we were traveling for just over 3 weeks, and it was the greatest vacation. So we visited St. John, Newfoundland, or is it St. John's? There's a St. John and a St. John's, and I can never remember which one is in New Brunswick and which one is in Newfoundland, but I want to say St. John's. And so in St. John's, Newfoundland, if you look up Jelly Bean Row, it is a row of houses on a street in Newfoundland where all the houses are painted these beautiful different colors. And it's actually not the only place where you can see this in Newfoundland. If you're traveling around, if you kind of go from the downtown and you walk up to the big lighthouse, there's kind of like another little village that I forget the name of. It's like a assortment of houses, and they have the same kind of color and just, I don't know, it feels like a very Maud Lewis kind of painting to me in real life. So this is a rocky outcrop here I did in French knots, because there are tons of those all over. Because Newfoundland is basically a giant rock in the middle of the ocean. And there's lots of just beautiful craggy trees that have personalities. And then this fabric went from kind of blue to green, and I purposely like did it upside down because the ocean is so important in Newfoundland. It's fishing villages, and you know, really the economy and the environment's very dependent on the weather. What I like about Newfoundland is that the weather kind of controls everybody, and that, you know, you can't go fast if the weather says no. And that way of life really appeals to me. I think the only reason that I don't move to Newfoundland, which I considered for a long time, is just the food access and healthcare access is a little more difficult and quite expensive. The food access, I remember paying like $7 for a green pepper while I was there. So yeah. And then, so this tag, one of the things we were to do is to create a pocket and to put a gift in there, a memory and a gift. So this was a gift that the beach gave me when I was in Newfoundland. Just this little flat stone that is weathered. It almost looks like the waves kind of kissed it, you know, there's these little rock waves on it. So for me, that's a really nice little memory to have. The next one was about seed stitch. And so this fabric, I don't know why, I just thought of like constellations when I thought about doing a ton of seed stitches. So this fabric is from a hoodie that my son wore when he was 6 months old and he grew out of. And we were to create these circles. So there's 3 circles there, and they're like the negative space, and we stitch everywhere else. So this whole thing is just covered in gold and taupey colored seed stitches. And then this one was couching. So couching is kind of like trapping either a fabric or another thread underneath some stitches. So this one I used vintage men's ties, which I also made my daughter a dress out of, some cotton fabrics and some iridescent, that's actually also another tie fabric. And then at the top I added some nice farm wool yarn. And so basically I used either cross, you know, single cross stitches back and forth, or cross X stitches to just trap everything down. And then this one on the side I made a little bit wider just to kind of keep the details of the tie. And then this one was about sort of 2 themes. So one was stitching some words. So we traced out words and we stitched them. I chose thread, scissors, buttons, needle, and then did some kind of stitching around. I liked the fun blue and red feeling of this, and added some lace at the top here just to have a few like little layers. And then the secret here is that is it this one that flips up? No, I'm lying. Never mind. There is no secret. I thought there was one that flipped up, but I think I ended up stitching it down because I just liked it down. I think that Anne's original one kind of flips up. Like you could probably write a message and then underneath on the blue you could have stitched something else, but I chose to just lay the whole thing down. Then this one was a week about keeping it simple and just learning a new stitch. I totally don't remember the name of this stitch, but basically it's working with 2 colors. This is all a fabric with a big flower on it. And so it's like yellow stitches all around. And then the next one, you sort of like, you loop through each one with your blue thread. And so this was just a very simple tag. I think it's every 4th week we learn a new stitch, and that was one of those. Then this one, okay, so this one is probably my biggest, I'd say learning exercise and challenge, because this is English paper piecing. So I had to purchase a punch to make these little hexagons out of paper. Then you essentially cut a circle of fabric and you lay it on top, and you kind of fold all of your edges in, and you're stitching at the back. So then what I did to complete this the way that I wanted it to be is, so I backed this in this beautiful blue fabric. I laid all of my hexies down. You remove the paper afterward, but for paper artists or for journal makers, you know, if you didn't want to do that, you don't have to. For obviously quilting, sewing reasons, you should. You have to. You can't put it, you know, you can't wash it with the paper inside. So then I also, like, so I laid them all down and I stitched them all down, and then, or did I, no, I stitched them together first, I think. No, I didn't, I'm lying. So no, I laid each one down, then I stitched it together. And then what I did afterward was, just like those kind of vintage blankets that have the yarn ties, I tied a little yarn tie through each one. I've always loved the folkiness of how that feels. And then I stitched on top, just with some slow stitching in gold. Then this tag was about creating this border of bullion stitches, these loops. So this is using a long needle, wrapping about 20 to 30 times around the needle, pulling it all through and going down the edge here. And then I just kind of stitched a bit of a thistle on this upholstery fabric from my old couch, actually. So yeah, that's that one. This tag is about layers of lace, and that's pretty self-explanatory. This tag was stitching sort of a bouquet of flowers or a garden or some florals. So because the lilacs were so wonderful this year, I French knotted this whole thing, and this is on my own eco and rust dyed fabric, and I love the heart-shaped leaves of the lilac tree, so that's that one. This one was about tatting. So for this one, I did tatting. I learned to do tatting. I'm not an expert, but I did learn a lot about it, and I really enjoy it, actually. I think I will probably experiment more with tatting in my future. And then this one is the first one that you haven't seen on video yet. So you've probably, if you've looked at my wrap-up videos, you've probably seen most or all of those at some point. This one is last week, and that was week 25, and it was about weaving. So I've done some embroidery floss, some of my hand spun yarn, some locks, and just woven the whole thing. And then week 26, to mark the middle of the year, this is my tag. So this week's challenge is a two-parter. So the first part is to create a badge for yourself to kind of recognize that we've made it halfway through. So I made it personal by adding my own eco-printed fabric in the background. These are catkins from a birch tree and some leaves in the background, and then I added just some simple lace. She said, you know, keep it simple. And then I added, as the medallion part of the tag, this is a French vintage actually cabinet pull backing that's really rusty and fun, and I use that as my medallion. So, and then I just kind of did some stitches through it. So that's my tag collection. The second part of the challenge for this mid-year is to make our favorite tag for Anne and send it to her, because she's making a map of all of the places where people are stitching these tags. So I haven't decided yet which one I'm going to make, but I will be spending time on doing that. So this is my little, I have this little tin that I keep them all in. They're all just hanging out in there. So that's my tags. So then let me think where I want to go next. Maybe I'll talk about stitching and stuff. So I'll start with the easy one. This is the only project I've really been working on that isn't like the imagination blanket or whatnot this week, because like I said, I became a student, a full-time student this week. So here is my progress on this project. This is the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Halloween Town, and so I finished one side. I'm on the second page, the final page, and so what I completed was all these black details down here, the house and the lamp post. So the house isn't done. I've got to do the windows are like a green tone. I've got these little characters that I need to do. I've got a few bits and bobs, but I'm getting pretty close to being done. So that's where that is. And I got to think about how I want to finish it. Okay, so imagination blanket. In the event that you didn't see my launch of this project, this stitch along last week in the wrap up, please check it out. I really want to do this with people, so please do it with me. This is me begging you, because I think it will be really fun, and I love the idea of like people creating heirloom blankets. So this is where I keep my project cards. So this is the first one. This is my gift to you. So if you check out the video from last weekend, the Imagination Blanket Stitch Along, you will find all of the instructions that you need to download this project card, as well as the drawings and color guides to guide you in doing this project. So I just wanted to show it to you again as a reminder. I am working on the project for the first week of July. There will be another free motif coming out from me, so stay tuned for that. Now I will show you the progress I'm making on the blanket. So let me just pull it out here. My threads, my current pattern I'm working on. I'm currently working on the Nathalie Lette pattern of this owl. So one of the things that I introduced in my video last week is from Sublime Stitching, who partners with all sorts of different artists. She has partnered with Nathalie to create this beautiful collection of amazing things to embroider. So I'm working on my owl right now. So check out Sublime Stitching if you would like to get a hold of this pattern. It's a very easy methodology they use to teach you how to do this. So that's what I'm working on in my hoop right now. I've just sketched it out in my blue sewing, you know, pencil. Then this week I also I did just these little freeform French knots of like a little kind of folky flower. So the reason that this is here is these are my wedding colors, this kind of cherry red and this light aqua blue. Then this is the original. This is what got it all started, Mr. Sun. I still need to stitch Mr. Golden Sun here. I'm going to try to do that this week. And then I stitched this cutie on. So this little bear is from my son's little overalls that he just grew out of. And I loved this applique, and it's denim, and I just stitched it on with some red thread, and I thought it's so cute. So that's where we are with this. So please stitch along with me. It's so much fun. I can't begin to tell you. So if you are like me and you know, are in the midst of summer and you don't want to get hot when you're stitching, you can see the corner of this. This is like one of those sort of recycled bags. It's like a vinyl. I keep the entire big king size blanket inside of there, and I just keep like the part that I'm working on the top, so that like you don't have the blanket all over the place. So I think that's all I have. Oh no, it's not, for stitching. I thought I'd do a little unboxing. So I got this Singer bobbin winder because I am so tired of like being in the middle of stitching and having to like stop my sewing machine and do anything to wind bobbins. So I thought I would get one of these. I have no idea how to use it or anything. I thought I would just unbox it here because why not? So the idea is this should be like a quicker way for me to just wind bobbins. It looks like a pretty simple little machine. I don't know, I probably have to put batteries in, I'm imagining. But yeah, it looks pretty easy to use. It's got arrow guides, I think, yeah. So here's the picture here. You put your thread on here, you put your bobbin on here. This is the winding guide, so you go through this loop around this, and then it winds on, and then you can have 2 extra bobbins here. So I just have to learn how to use it. Oh yeah, it takes batteries, so 2 AA batteries back here. So I will load that up, and maybe I will show it to you in another video, but I just wanted to share that I got it because I'm pretty happy about it. So that's that. So then I think I'll move on to just haul, thrift haul. It's just one thing only, and it's actually not even from a thrift store. It's from Once Upon a Child, where I get my used kids clothing. So I found this there and I was kind of like, wow, you know, that's amazing to see something vintage there. That's not clothing, of course, but it's from Romper Room. It's the Romper Room birthday word book. And I've always loved the characters, these anthropomorphic, always gets me kind of characters, fun puppetry kind of. So I'm totally thinking that this needs to become a journal. Like, not the book itself, but like I need to make a journal in this theme, because I really love a lot of the, I just love this guy. I love a lot of the imagery and the, yeah, the content of this book. So that will be in the future at some point. So cute. Then I have something else that's journal related, but I can't share it with you yet. Let me show you. Oops, hello.
I made this.
Oh wow, thank you. We have a little visitor here. So next is let me just move a few things around here. So like I said, I've been so busy this week, but I did finish one of the journals, the summer flea market journals. So this is it here. As you can see, these are going to be stuffed with ephemera, and they have a really nice feel in the hands, and I really love them. So I will do a quick little preview. I know this video is going to be a little bit longer, but it's catching up from a couple weeks. So I've stitched in these vintage fabric closures, and so I'll just kind of do a quick, not a real flip through. I'll do a real flip through later, but here's what the theme kind of looks like. So when you think about, you know, summer flea market, think of antiques and art, bright colors, sunshine, nature, flowers, you know, adventures, road trips, nature study, gardening. These are kind of like the themes that I'm going with, like cottage, you know, art. So that's where these journals are going, and I'm pretty excited about them. I will do an official flip through of this, of course. And I think these would be really great. I'm actually taking this one. This is my first traveler's notebook here. This one I've already written my vacation 2021, and I've already broken it into what pages I'll be using for what days. And so this journal will be going with me on my vacation. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, as we're getting a little bit of our lives back, we're able to do a few things. These would be nice little journals to just take along with you on vacation, and you know, document a little trip that you take, and have fun with it. So yeah, there's a lot of really fun ephemera in these journals. I have had a lot of time to just make really fun things, and the pages themselves are also a lot of fun because I've used up my hoard of digitals that I've had for a long time, that I've printed, and I've sort of taken a page or two here and there, but didn't end up making a journal out of that digital, you know, journal kit or theme. So yeah, there's a lot of stitching elements. So yeah, a lot of fun. These are going to be listed in my Etsy shop, probably sort of one by one, I'm thinking, rather than as a big group. There will be 12 in total, so they will be coming soon. I'll probably do a flip through of each one individually, because in the past when I've done like a bunch of journals, you know, people have asked me like not to do a single video about them, to do like one video for each journal so they can see each one. So I will do that, and I'll give them all kind of their own little name. And so yeah, I think that this represents also, for those following along, I think this is my 73rd journal that I have made. Can you believe that? So I'm a little addicted. Anyway, so that's that journal. I'll do a flip through later on about that. Then I'll show you a few pieces of ephemera that I've been making. So these are just kind of what I'm making in the background for these journals. So this is a fabric tag. It's actually got sunset. This is from Nature Study, where you document the sunset, and I liked that on the back. And this little postcard, and this marvelous realm of fairyland. So I'm just having fun making ephemera in the background right now. This is a really cool, this is a vintage picture of like a couple who were snake charmers, and I just added a snake and a stamp and some nice gray fabric on top and kind of grunged it up. So that's a fun tag. So that is what I'm doing. Like you saw me as I began this video, making these little froggy cards. So yeah, we are making fun things here and doing fun things here. And sorry for my absence. I think that's all I really have to blurb about at this point. This is the next journal that I'm working away on right now. So lots of fun stuff happening here. As you can see, I'm just kind of stuffing the signatures before I put the journal together, and I'm just going to keep working on those. I'll probably make some videos this week of me making these journals, because, you know, hopefully I can get reconnected. So that's it. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We have fun here. So I will talk to you all very soon, hopefully not as long as it's been, and all of my social media information is down below in the description box. Thank you again so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care. Bye.